Hi everybody, I'm Rabbi Judith Siegal from Temple, Judea, and I'm honored to be able to teach for you today about Parashat VaYishlach. Now, I have to admit that I wrote a chapter in a book called the Musar Torah Commentary about this Parsha, and a lot of what I am sharing with you comes from that book, but I still really encourage you to get the book. It's from the CCAR Press, and it's called the Musar Torah Commentary, A Spiritual Path to Living a Meaningful and Ethical Life. It's edited by one of our colleagues, Rabbi Block, and it has chapters in it on each of the parashiot, and they're all written by different colleagues, different rabbis, specifically about the midot, the traits that are examined through the teaching of Musar. And the chapter that I focused on, that I wrote and that I'm talking about today, is VaYishlach. Jacob is in fear from his brother Esau, specifically, who he is about to see. And Jacob has reason to fear. He has tricked his brother. He has lied to his father. He is going to see his brother and is fearful. And the word fear is in this parsha many times in different forms. And it's interesting in Judaism that the same word for fear is the word yirah or yireh, and it also means awe. So the trait of fear can also be a trait that is more like awe. And in the teaching of Musar, we examine the traits that are in ourselves to find where we are on the continuum between those two aspects of the same thing. So are we more on the side of fear or more on the side of awe? In rabbinic tradition, Yirat Hashem, fear of God, is also the awe of God that inspires one to follow the commandments. Well, that fear can be a healthy fear that scares one person into doing the right thing in order to not get punished. That's a way that we might look at children and the way that they behave. They want to behave so that they don't get punished by a parent. But there's another way to look at it, which is that it's possible that we behave in a certain way and follow the commandments because of our inspiration towards God, towards following the commandments, because we know that we're doing the right thing. So those are two different ways of, yes, following the commandments because of our either fear of God or our awe for God. And Jacob is no different. Jacob also had this very real fear of his brother, and the fear that perhaps Jacob could kill him and his family. And therefore, in this chapter of the story, Jacob moves his family and his assets across the river so as to protect them, because he is fearful. And he could also be fearful that perhaps God is about to punish him in unknown ways. Now, there's another possibility that maybe Jacob is full of awe for God and for the holiness of this moment of reunion with his brother, who he hadn't seen in many years. So there is a continuum between fear and awe in our lives as well. There could be the fear also of the unknown. Jacob is in the middle of nowhere, and there could be a real fear that he has of not knowing what is going to happen ahead, which is much like our own lives today, where we really don't know all that lies ahead for us. But Jacob moves beyond his fear, and in this parsha, he is wrestling with an angel, a messenger of God. And in that wrestling match, we can also understand that for us as human beings today in the modern world, we too wrestle with our fears, anxieties, and in particular, we wrestle with the things that we are afraid of so as not to let them stop us from moving forward. We all have the capacity to do right and wrong. And Jacob reminds us that we have the capacity to let our fears overtake us, or we can move past them and find a sense of awe to move towards the holiness and the path that we want to be on, a path of holiness. So may each one of us this week find ways to be inspired to live a good and holy life by our ancestor Jacob, who in this Parsha also gets a new name from God, the name Yisrael, one who wrestles with God. Each one of us may be wrestling with a lot of things right now, but we are able to, on our better days, find a sense of holiness in our struggle. Shabbat Shalom.